Good morning. I was just changing or starting the meeting early to do some stuff like changing my profile picture and stuff.
It's okay. I'm just at work, so you're fine.
Okay. I'm gonna have people do the same thing if they want to. I'm gonna have them put up a profile picture instead of it being just blank gray screen. So if you want to do that already, you totally can.
Okay. How do you do that?
So you should be able to like click on your more link and then edit profile picture should be one of your options. At least that's what it shows up for me. Like when I click on my name under the more bit, it says rename, edit profile picture. So just edit the profile picture and then either pick one from the old internet or a meme if you have one.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey Leah, if you want to change your thing to like a meme or a profile picture of Bitmoji or whatever, that would be awesome. Because I'm gonna have everybody just kind of do that because I'm tired of it just being blank gray screens. So if you want to do that, awesome. If not, you can just wait 2 minutes till we do it all as a class.
I clicked the rename, but it just has me like rename my name. I don't see where it says to do the photo.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, because I'm on Mac and my options are rename and edit profile picture. I mean, there's a way to do it from your user settings, but it kept trying to make me log in through Eastern's SSO to do that. So, um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Trying to think here. Yeah, because like I said, I'm on Mac and mine I feel like is different than yours. Does anybody else? Do any of you know how to change the picture? Because I've only got the edit profile picture thing. Does anybody else know where to find that on your guys's? Because I don't know, maybe mine's different. Yeah. Good morning, guys. We're gonna let people start pouring in, and then if you know how to change your profile picture, um, and would be so kind as to like change it to a meme or even a Bitmoji or a selfie, depending on what you feel like rocking, that would be awesome. If anybody knows how to edit the picture, that would be great because all I have is a button that says more, and then I can like rename you guys and remove and stuff, but like for me, literally the more is rename, edit profile picture. All right. So what I was just telling everybody is we've only got 13 so far. But I'd like you guys to change your profile picture to like a meme, a Bitmoji, a selfie you like, just so we don't have the whole plain green gray screen going on. Make it fairly appropriate, I guess. I mean, as you can see, mine's not exactly PG, but it's funny. But nothing racist, offensive, or intentionally offensive, or yeah, nothing offensive, things like that. If you guys want to start doing that while we're waiting for people, go ahead and do that. But like I said, the only thing that I can tell you is that the more button on mine is rename and edit profile, but I don't know. Apparently yours aren't the same. And it's probably to do with the fact that I am the meeting host versus you guys. But if anybody knows how to do that and they want to share with the class real quick, they can. Um, while you guys are doing that and just sitting here listening to me, I wanted to first apologize for how the peer review and instructor reviews have gone. That was a dumpster fire, but it's 2020. And if you thought things were going to go smoothly, this is not the year for you. But next round will be a lot smoother. The peer review will be easier for you guys to do. I'll be hopefully more on top of getting stuff done. Luckily, we had extra time here, so essentially you're losing 2 days, but like the end goal for this week is to create a research question and then use that to start doing your research and crafting the lit review over the coming 3 weeks. So we got lucky that we have an extra time. Yeah, we'll go over the lit review here in a bit, but I just wanted to give out some general stuff on the essays themselves. All of you guys are on point with analysis and whatnot. Some of you might be analyzing what the author's argument is versus the rhetorical effectiveness of the move that they chose to do. And for those of you that did that, I gave you suggestions on how to refocus what you had on the rhetoric of it. So an example of that would be, instead of talking about how the informal tone closes the distance between the reader and the author, like that would be an effective rhetorical move, or an effective rhetorical analysis of a move. But some of you guys, I think, get caught up in talking about what the argument of the essay is versus looking at how that move is being used to be an effective piece of rhetoric. I hope that made sense. So I think I told most of you how to do that correctly. Like I think I told you guys to look at inductive reasoning or comparison arguments, those sort of things, to look at logic and whatnot. But most of you were on point with your analysis. Like you just had to refocus. So the essays aren't in a state where like I'm worried about you guys over the next 2 days. So you will have 2 days to finish. Tomorrow is going to be the better day to stop by and ask any last minute questions you have because it is office hours. But just an FYI, those feedback is ready. You got 2 days, today and tomorrow, to finish them. And like I said, none of you were so far off. Some of you just need to shift your focus from evaluating the argument itself to evaluating how they lay out that argument using like certain rhetorical moves. Like I said, I gave you guys that. If you guys want to go and download the worksheet from yeah, where is it? You want to go download the literature review, part 2 literature review. We're going to introduce that today. That's what we're going to talk about today. So if you guys want to go grab that really quickly and then come back here, yeah, and then we'll start reading it. But yeah, if you guys want to go grab that, that's under week 5's module real quick. It should say part 2, the literature review, on it, and you'll just download it. So go grab that, come back, and we'll introduce this assignment over the next 40 minutes. And like I said, I just wanted to get it introduced so that like come Wednesday, we can be moving forward and looking at crafting our research questions, or be working on crafting our research questions that are gonna drive the lit review and the argument essay going forward. Who would be so kind as to start reading the lit review? If they want to read the title, the point value, and then the important date section. If somebody be so cool as to do that for me, that would be awesome. I'll give you guys a second to get those up. Chloe, would you be so kind as to start reading for us if you've got it pulled up? If not, we'll take a second and wait.
Yeah, you want me to read just like the before it starts for this assignment?
Yeah, just read the important dates, the title, the point value, that sort of stuff.
Academic essay part 2, the literature review, 200 points. Important dates, first draft due 2 to 3 pages at 11:59 p.m. Sunday, November 1st, 2020. Peer review, Monday, November 2nd through Wednesday, November 5th. Final draft due 4 to 5 pages at 11:59 p.m. Sunday, November 8th, 2020.
Cool, thank you. And as you can see, this week, we don't have a rough draft due, so this week we'll be crafting that research question, and then next week will be the writing and stuff. So just keep that in mind. I know some of you are probably freaking out a little bit that we're moving on already, but nothing is due immediately. As for the peer reviews, next time they will be done not anonymously and online, so they'll be the way that walkthrough video showed you of like having the text in front of you and all the little editing tools. So you will do that, and then you will do that, and then you don't have to really turn anything in or attach anything. You just have to do it, and then it like saves what you do, and then the other person can come look at it, and then your final draft will be due the 8th, which is like just over 2 weeks from now. Who wants to read that for this assignment little bit for me?
I can read it.
All right, thank you. I was just about to ask you. Thank you.
For this assignment, you will complete a literature review of research surrounding your topic of research in the course. This assignment asks you to write a synthesized summary of your research, noting common and differing trends and ideas. You will not explicitly make an argument. You will not include your opinion or ideas. Your only job is to survey the scholarly research that has been done on your topic. Be sure that you include a diverse range of approaches to and perspectives on your topic. This assignment will help you later as you form a thesis for your larger academic essay. Also, this paper will serve as the first section of your long essay/research project for the course.
All right, so yeah, I feel like that's pretty straightforward, but does anybody want to, after hearing that, give us their 20-second elevator speech on what a literature review is? Leah, do you want to tell us what you think a literature review is, just based on that little bit that you got there?
I think it's all about like doing researches from I don't know actually.
Okay, so easiest way to think about it is like, this is where you tell me about all of the research you did to create the argument for your next section. So what you'll be doing here is, obviously we'll be crafting a research question, and as you're like researching that question to create an argument based off of your line of inquiry, the literature review is your way of like getting me caught up on the conversation. So it'll be like a synthesis and summary of all the research you did, kind of telling me what the field you're studying or the topic you're studying has to say about itself. So an example would be, if I wanted to look at, so this could be a potential research question. I'm just going to jump ahead. So a potential research question, if I were to have read Bell Hooks's article, could be, how does race affect the portrayal of class in popular culture? That's a question that she doesn't really answer in her thing, and that I think deserves an answer. And it's not an exact discussion of what she's already written about. It's its own thing, but it's talking about the portrayal of class in popular culture in the same way, but it's not just me restating her question. So if that were my research question, when I'm researching that, so I'm trying to make that argument of whether or not race does affect class and how it does when it does, the research I've done, I would just synthesize and summarize it so that whoever is reading would get a general idea of the 8 articles I read to make my argument. Does that make sense? You're kind of contextualizing what the field or what people are already saying about the subject you're talking on, and then you're just giving us a catch up on that so that when we come in, we have more knowledge than just coming in as an uneducated reader. Does that make sense to everybody? So a lit review is just reviewing the literature, and you're basically summarizing and synthesizing all of the sources you did to give me an idea of the context surrounding the field that you were like doing research in, if that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions there? Does that make sense? So far, the lit review is just a review of the sources you will be using in your article. You're giving us a summary. You're not really giving us your opinion or your argument. You're not really previewing that. You're just talking about what others have been saying about that subject. All right, cool. Who wants to read the essay will be graded on how well bit? I know I just put you on the spot, Leah, but would you do it for me, please, since you actually were able to talk, and that's usually who I pick on, is the people who I know can talk.
Okay, sure. Introduce your topic. What is the area of interest? Describe the scope of the problem. Discuss why this is an important topic to study. Organize your essay. Does each paragraph support your thesis? Is the essay logically structured? Do the sentence in your paragraph follow the topic sentence? Select sources. Are your sources scholarly? Do your sources contain primary research and/or studies? Are your sources closely related to your topic? Have you selected sources that represent a diverse range of viewpoints on your topic, rather than just selecting sources that support your own position on the topic? If not, how well do you connect them to your topic? Are your sources acceptable for literature review? Do you have at least 8 total sources, 6 of which must be scholarly? Cite sources. Are your sources correctly cited in MLA format? Do you adequately explain any direct quotes? How well do you paraphrase the content of these sources? Do you appropriately introduce quotes? Do you give credit when appropriate? Summarize and synthesize your material. Do you accurately provide information to help readers understand the sources you cite? Do you synthesize your sources to provide an overall picture of the research in your particular subfield? Meet the basic criteria for the assignment. Is your paper 4 to 5 pages, not including works cited? Double space, readable 12-point font with regular 1-inch margins and in MLA format. Did you turn your assignment in on time via the appropriate channel? Did you proofread, edit, and revise the essay before submitting?
Thank you very much. And I know that seems like a lot, but it's like 6 things, and basically all of them, if you look, kind of boil back down to, like, did you write an organized paper? Did you introduce your topic? Well, I mean, I know that those, like, yeah, do you have an introduction? Is, like, the essay logically organized? The biggest one for you guys is going to be making sure, like, it's not the biggest one in terms of the lit review, but it's something that can trip you up, is making sure you select the right amount of sources. So as you can see here, you have to use 8 total because you're going to be writing a 4 to 5 page paper. So that's 2 per page ish, you know. But the big thing that trips people up is, like, the difference between scholarly and non-scholarly sources. So so here's a question. Would, in just what you guys know, I'm going to use it as a baseline, just shout out or write in the text, whatever, write in the chat, sorry. Would a book that has been produced by a major publisher and has a large circulation group, say it's a Penguin Classic or something like that, on, I'll just actually, yeah, so say you have a book on cops and media. That's a book that's sitting here. Would that be considered scholarly or not scholarly if it's put out by a well-known publisher that you've heard of before, and it's a book that was on the Best Times seller list, would that be considered a scholarly source, yes or no, and why? Go ahead, somebody just shout out. What do you feel in your bones? Is that a scholarly source, a book that is produced by a well-known publisher and has been featured on like a New York Times bestseller list? Is that a scholarly source?
No.
What was that?
I will guess as a no.
Actually, it would be considered a reputable, like, scholarly source because the book has been put through like a review process by the book editor. So if it's a well-known book about like a subject like cops and media, because there isn't necessarily just a sole field for that. So I would consider that a scholarly source if it's a well-known book. But if it's a book that has been published by some guy on Amazon and there's only been 4 copies sold, then I would be wary of it. But if it's a book with millions of copies sold, like we're believing that the person who produced the book went through the process of fact checking to make sure that they were being as accurate as possible within the book and stuff. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay. What about say you find a really good website that somebody has made and they're not really giving their sources for their information, but they're not really giving credit for their information, and they don't have an annotated bibliography, but they have a lot of really good information that is, and once you do research on their information, you find that they're telling like the truth, for lack of a better word. They're being honest with their portrayal of the facts, but it's a website and they're not really giving much of their source material. Would that be considered scholarly or not scholarly? What do you guys think?
Not scholarly.
Yeah, exactly, because they're not like being as transparent in their process and whatnot. They're not really scholarly. Most websites you'll find aren't going to be considered scholarly. The sources they use, you can then go steal from and will be scholarly. So say you find somebody who has a really great website on, trying to think of a subject. Say that you have somebody who has a really great website on, say the Jeffersons, that the television show that Hooks like talks about or mentions as one of the shows that has a troublesome portrayal of the lower class. If you found a website about that, like that was talking about that, that probably wouldn't be scholarly, but the sources the guy used to create that website. If you found like books that others had written or journal articles, those would be the scholarly sources you could use, but his site itself would not be scholarly. It would be almost like the easiest way to think about it would be comparing it to Wikipedia. It would be a great starting point, but you would be using it more to steal their sources and then track those to like journals and books and stuff so that you have your hands on the scholarship and not using somebody else to get to the scholarship, if that makes any sense. Also, just want to throw that out there, Wikipedia, because I always tell everybody, great place to start and great place to steal sources from. But as you know, most academics are like, that's not a scholarly source that'll like be allowed in your like lit review. You can't be like, Wikipedia is the one, but you can go steal sources from them. So that's what I throw out there, because I know a lot of people like Wikipedia, and so do I. It's a great starting point, you know. Anyways. What would a journal you find on the library databases be? Like, what would, say you found an article from JSTOR, would that be considered, JSTOR, just for reference, is one of our online databases. Would that be considered scholarly if you found an article on JSTOR or ProQuest or that sort of stuff?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. Like, most of the stuff that we find from our databases, as long as it's peer reviewed, like the database you're using uses peer reviewed papers, like you're going to be 9 times out of 10 you're going to be safe with those being scholarly articles. Every now and again, if you get an article produced in some weird once a year very small journal, you may want to do some more checking and digging to make sure that they're not just throwing out whatever is being thrown at them. Does that make sense? Because there are some publications that will publish anything that anybody gives them, and then like once you start looking at the articles that have been written and stuff, they are clearly like just scamish and not right looking websites, and those are designed to take advantage of international students who don't have access to some of the journals that we have through, you know, the internet's dumb rules. But large reputable journals that we find on like our website, like Sage, Pub, JSTOR, MLA database, those are going to be better, and the larger publications. But some of the smaller ones you might have to double check. But for the most part, peer-reviewed journals, articles found in the databases that we use are typically peer-reviewed and good to go. What about a newspaper article from, say, the New York Times? Is that considered scholarly?
Yes.
It wouldn't, because they typically aren't using their sources or citing their sources, but it could be considered one of your 2 high quality sources, because you know how you have to use 8 and 6 have to be scholarly, and there are 2 that are left up to you guys to use whatever reputable sources. So like a really good website or a news site could be your reputable sites that you could use, or reputable sources that you could use. But they wouldn't be considered outright scholarly. So like a newspaper article from Newsweek isn't going to be scholarly, but a journal article I know will be. But a newspaper article or a nice website are going to be considered credible sources that you can use. So like New York Times, USA Today, The Hill, or just nice websites in general. Like say you go to, I don't know, say you're looking at something and one takes you to like a website on a certain author that you want to look at their text. Like that could be a reputable website, but not necessarily a scholarly website. If it's a website for like, say the Herman Melville Society, I'm just bringing in an author that we're not even talking about. Or say that there's a Bell Hooks Society. I don't know that there is. That would be kind of weird that there were a living person like society. But if there is a website that is a Bell Hooks Society, you could use it as like a credible website, but not necessarily your scholarly website. Unless that society has a journal that they're putting out that they peer review everything, and then you'd be good to use the materials that journal through the society. Anyways, yeah. Any questions on the difference between scholarly and non-scholarly sources? Anybody have any ideas? If you have anything that you think would be one or the other and just want to clarify, go ahead and throw those out now. And we've also got the next 2 weeks to talk about this. So it feels like I'm getting ahead, but I'm also not. Does that make sense? What else do we got here? Citing your sources is going to be a big one for this one as well, because we're doing MLA or APA. None of you have clarified that difference, so I'm just assuming you'll be assuming you'll be rolling an MLA for this. But if not, please let me know like somewhere in the beginning that you're using APA style versus MLA. Those are the 2. There's Chicago Manual of Style. There's different ones you can use, but APA and MLA are the 2 that most students fall into. Either you're going science track or humanities track. Just let me know which one you're using. I'm most familiar with MLA, but I can go get a hold of APA. But let me know which you're using ahead of time, and make sure you are properly formatting stuff, because again, this is an academic paper and a lit review. Those sort of things will matter. So if you don't have a 12-point readable font or proper margins, or you're missing, say, a works cited page or proper citations, those sort of things will add up here. Whereas the rhetorical analysis, when you didn't like properly cite a quote or had some things that weren't correct, I just kind of highlighted them and pointed them out and didn't take points off, and probably won't in this final draft as well. But this next one, MLA and stuff, since it is going to be part of like the rubric that will be taken into account when when doing this. So make sure that you are doing the MLA stuff. PurdueOwl.com or Purdue Owl Lab or whatever, I don't remember what it is. I will set up a link to it, and that's an online MLA guide that is usually spot on. Any questions about the formatting or citing sources and stuff? Again, MLA, APA, that will be a heavily, not heavily graded, but it will actually count. So you could go from an A to a B if you didn't format properly or any of that. Any questions on formatting, or anybody want to tell me they're going to use a different style besides MLA or APA right now? All right. Yeah. What else do I got? Summarize and synthesize your materials. Again, that's what this is all about, is contextualizing the research you've done to kind of give the person a fuller picture of the conversation going around, or conversation surrounding your area of research, so that we get a good base knowledge, like myself and your peer reviewer, so we have a good idea of what the conversation is when we walk in. So we're not just coming in blind and being like, yep, this is right or wrong. We have to like have a base of knowledge to help us like engage with what you're talking about, if that makes sense. Any questions there, or any in general about this essay? Because I figured it was going to be only like a half hour today, because I think that this is straightforward, but I also have done like multiple of these. Any questions about this lit review? Anything you want clarification on? Anything you're scared of? Yeah. What do you guys have questions on, or anything? What do you guys want to talk about? Because we got like 20 minutes left, and then we'll do this as long as we can, and then we'll call it a day, because I'm sure you guys want to get back to your papers. Any questions right now on literature review, what it is, how to do it, how many sources, where to start? And we will be, Wednesday we'll be going over like a pseudo library research day. We'll be doing that to get started and stuff, and I'll be talking about how to search effectively and whatnot. But any questions right now about the lit review?
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Does our research topic question have to do with the articles that we are reading for our rhetorical analysis?
So they have to be in that same, under the same umbrella as the thing you were reading. So if you were reading the environmental one, you would want to talk about an environmental issue. You're not going to just suddenly switch from that to jumping over to like race and portrayal in media. So the article you chose kind of hems you in terms of like your bigger subject that you'll be talking about. So like you can talk about anything you want with the environment, if like you read As the World Burns or whatever it was called. And then same thing with Hooks and Ducil. You can talk about anything you want in terms of like racial representation in popular culture, or how you could even talk about, since Hooks brings it up, like the views of how poor students are looked at by faculty in universities they attend. That could totally be a research question. You could does like socioeconomic status affect how like students are viewed in the classroom? That could be a total question, but like it should be in the same vein as the question that the research, the essay you read for your rhetorical analysis. It needs to be kind of the same, but you don't want to be talking exactly about what the author was talking about. Does that make sense? So another example would be if I read As the World Burns, or the 50, I can't remember the name of it because it feels like it's got like a really long name and it's referred to as two things depending on which you're reading. But anyways, if I were to have read the environmental one, a totally relevant topic I could start researching is, does the carbon footprint of like global shipping undermine Tesla's environmental, like, you know, does it environmental positives, or what, I'm trying to think of the word, but does like the global cost of like shipping all the parts and stuff undermine the environmental friendliness of a Tesla once it's on the road? That would be a perfectly valid, probably a really large research question, but that would be one that is in that same vein, but not what the author is talking about. So what I don't want you guys to do is just rewrite a paper talking about the exact same thing as your authors. So if you read the Disney Pixar one, you're not going to get to talk about Toy Story, The Incredibles, and Cars. You can't be like, I'm going to evaluate the relationships here and how these have more traditional feminine. You can't rewrite Gilliam and Wooden's paper essentially, but you can like pick some different movies and look at how even newer movies, because Toy Story, The Incredibles, and was it Monsters Inc? I don't remember what it was, the third one. Toy Story, Incredibles. Is it Monsters Inc? Who read that article? Somebody did here. I know they
It's
did.
Cars.
It's Cars. Sorry, yeah. But those three. So you like, if you want to look at even newer movies and see if the models of male representation of like being a man have incorporated more of those feminine aspects and they're still going with that, or if they've rebelled against it, like you could update that article, so to speak, by looking at what they were looking at and looking at newer examples to see if the trend is continuing. But you don't want to just write about the same thing that they did. Or you could switch up, and now I'm just rambling, but you could look at newer movies and whether or not the princesses are still being like hemmed in by traditional roles, or whether or not that has allowed them, like whether or not new modern Disney princesses are more complex in terms of their emotional bandwidth, and taking on traditionally heroic roles, that sort of thing. You could talk about that. Like, is there models where the princess saves herself in Disney? That could be a total paper of talking about like new gender roles of the Disney princess saving herself, but it's not the same as them examining that, like the Cars, Toy Story, Incredibles, like it's not the same. Does that make sense? So you have to be in the same framework as the article you read, but you don't want to just be talking about the same thing they did. And I didn't make this specification last year, and I got a lot of papers that were on the same thing and then used a lot of the same sources, and a lot of people were just rehashing what other writers had already done better than they could, because it's an English 201 class. Not to be mean, but most writers have done what we try to do better. And our job is to try to find new and interesting things to say and add to the conversation until we get to a point where we're the people doing it better. But that's the big thing, is it has to be like relevant to the article you read, but not just the exact same. Hopefully that makes sense, because I feel like I just talked for like 10 minutes. Any questions there on what I'm saying? So yes, no, do we got an idea that we should be in the same area but not ripping off our essays from the book? Hopefully that makes sense. But other than that being the thing, like the world is your oyster there, as long as you're talking about the environment in some way, if you read that one, you're good, as long as, yeah. What else do we got here? All right. Do we have any other questions about anything? Because we got like 15 minutes left. This is your 15 minutes. If not, we can call it a day. If you've got questions, go ahead. Let's stay and talk about them, and you can ask them now, because I'm sure other people have those exact same questions. What questions do we have? All right, cool. I got one no question. Oh, I was going to say you unmute. I can't hear you, Leah. Your mic's going up, but like there's no sound coming through.
Oh, I don't have any questions so far.
Oh, okay, cool. I just saw your mic pop up and then you like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
No worries. No worries. Zoom is what it is. If nobody has any questions, then I guess we can call it. Just make sure to do your paper tonight and tomorrow. It's due tomorrow, and come Wednesday, like ready to kind of start hashing out some discussion or research questions, that sort of a thing. So be thinking about those. And Wednesday, that's what we'll be doing, is we'll be going over chapters 7 and 8, starting to craft our research questions a little more, diving more into what we should be using in terms of sources and clarifying more what sources are. That's what we'll be doing Wednesday, is just kind of clarifying what's going on and working on getting those research questions rolling, so that by this weekend you have a research question, so you have a week to find your articles, read them, and start creating a rough draft for next weekend or next week.
Wait,
Yeah.
just to clarify, sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So we aren't using the article that we have been writing on. We're finding different articles.
Yeah, you'll have to find a whole new range of sources. Like you can steal some of the sources from your original article, or if they touch on something that you wanted to talk about, but you're going in a completely different way, you could totally use your source, but like you're not going to be writing on the exact same thing that your author was writing on. So the comic book one, the graphic novel about the environment, and like you can't really just rewrite an article about how corporations should be held responsible for their share of polluting, because that's already one of the arguments being made in that article, you know. So you would want to talk about a different thing. So you would want to talk about, say, is actual like becoming a carbon neutral planet a possibility? That could be a potential research question, and then you could make an argument based on that. So say your research says no, we can never, say the research you're finding says no, and it's reputable, no, we can never reach like carbon neutral. That could be an argument you could make, that since we can never reach carbon neutral, we should shift our emphasis on making the most harmful pollutants like green instead of making everything green. That's a total argument, but you see how it's not the same as just being like corporations need to be held responsible. It's a whole new line of inquiry based on environmental like stuff, but it's not just me rehashing what somebody's already written. And that's the end goal, is to get you guys to make those conversations surrounding environmental issues, or issues of race, or issues of gender, or issues of disability studies or equity, those sort of things. Like we don't want just the conversations to be the same 3 topics talked over and over again about that. We want as many conversations about topics in that field as possible. Hopefully that made sense.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so you can totally steal from your current one and maybe use it as a source if they're talking about something relevant, but you won't be writing on the same thing. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions on what we're doing going forward?
I have none so far.
All right, cool. I was just sorry. I know those awkward pauses are weird, but I usually give like 10 seconds to make sure anybody who's trying to work up like
So
the thought in their head to like make it so they're not tripping over their own words or any of that stuff is good. Any other questions before I let y'all go?
are papers due tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, so the one you just got feedback on yesterday is due
Yeah.
tomorrow night at midnight. And like I said, most of you were really close to being done and pretty on point, so I'm not freaking out. None of you have a whole paper to rewrite. At most, you
Yeah.
have some things to refocus, but you already have quotes picked and like rhetorical strategies that they're using picked. So most of you guys are good, but yeah, the paper is due tomorrow night at midnight. And then if you need an extra day, it's 5% off. And
Okay.
given how peer reviews and stuff have gone, like I'm not gonna be like super harsh in your grading, you know.
I was gonna ask too, where do I like find like where my paper is peer reviewed? Or
Um,
you're too?
Oh, so for my feedback, the easiest way to do it is you go into the assignment and then you click on that assignment under whichever one it is. Like, so you'd be looking at Peer 1 or Academic Essay Part 1, blah, 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 blah. And then there should be a little thing on your right-hand side that says download comments or download
Okay.
submissions. And then you would click on that, and then, sorry, I'm looking at, let's see here. I'm just gonna go to one of my own assignments because I can't go to student view for you guys. So, yeah, sorry. I'm making sure it's on the right side, but it should be on the right side.
All right, cool.
Past assignments. Yeah, so you'll see submission. So on the right side, you'll see it say submitted, and then you'll see submission details and then download. So if you click on submission details, and then you should see a view feedback thing, and then you can click on that to download view feedback and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. if anybody else needs any help, I'm here for another minute or two. If not, you guys can jam out. But yeah, finding your feedback should just be on the right-hand side, and then there should be a view feedback button next to your, like, where your uploaded file. All right, if that's everything, I'm gonna, oh, Aria, your mic is unmuted. Did you have a question?
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, thank you guys. I will see you tomorrow if you stop by for office hours or have any questions. And if not, I will see you guys for Wednesday. Wow. All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.